Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Lamb and Fun with Shreya. तो आई नो आपको मेरी स्टोरी टाइम वीडियो बहुत पसंद आती हैं एंड आई एम रियली सॉरी कि मैं इतने टाइम बाद एक लॉन्ग वीडियो बना रही हूँ. शॉर्ट वीडियो पे भी बहुत टाइम हो गया, बट आई गेस मैंने कल ही या परसों डाला एक शॉर्ट वीडियो अबाउट वेयर टू ऑल टीचर्स को. एंड टुडे के वीडियो में तो आई एम गोना लाइक रीड यू अ स्टोरी ऑफ द banyan tree. Okay, so it's from grade 6 NCERT honeysuckle book, The Banyan Tree. So, before we read, have you ever seen a mongoose? A mongoose can fight with and kill a snake. Look at the image, find the red lines along with them. You can see the image? Yeah. So, the fight of the cobra and the mongoose is a classic drama often seen in India, and the outcome is largely the same. The mongoose is not immune to the venomous bite, but is faster and quicker motion than the snake. The cobra assumes a posture in defense and attempts to reach the animal by a sweeping strike by the quick moving mongoose jumps out of reach and comes at the snake direction before the snake can get to striking position again. This constant movement tries discouraging the snake, and the mongoose is finally able to leap in close and bury its teeth in the snake's neck, usually severing the joints of its vertebrae. So now it's time. Part 1. Though the house and grounds belonged to my grandparents, the magnificent old banyan tree was mine, chiefly because grandfather at 63 could no longer climb it. Its spreading branches, which hung to the ground and took root again, forming a number of twisting passages, gave me endless pleasure. Among them were squirrels and snails and butterflies. The tree was older than the house, older than grandfather, as old as Dehradun itself. I could hide myself in its branches, behind thick green leaves, and spy on the world below. My first friend was a small grey squirrel, arching his back and sniffing into the air. He seemed at first to resent my invasion of his privacy, but when he found that I did not arm myself with catapult or airgun, he became friendly. And when I started bringing himself pieces of cake and biscuit, he grew quite bold and was soon taking morsels from hard before long. He was delving into my pockets and helping himself to whatever he could find. He has a very young squirrel, and his friends and relatives probably thought him foolish and headstrong for trusting a human. In the spring, when the banyan tree was full of small red figs, birds of all kinds would flock into its branches, the red-bottomed bulbul, cheerful and greedy, parrots, myna, and crows squabbling with one another. During the fig season, the banyan tree was the noisiest place in the garden. Halfway up the tree, I had built a crude platform where I would spend the afternoons when it was not too hot. I could read there, propping myself up against the tree with a cushion from the living room. Treasure Island, Huckleberry Finn, and the story of Dr. Dolittle were some of the books that made up my banyan tree library. When I did not feel reading, I could look down through the leaves and the world below. And on one particular afternoon, I had a grandstand view of that classic of the Indian wilds, a fight between a mongoose and a cobra. Part 2. The warm breezes of approaching summer had sent everyone, including the gardener, into the house. I was feeling drowsy myself, wondering if I should go to the pond. and have a swim with Ramu and his buffaloes. When I saw a huge black cobra gliding out of a clump of cactus at the same time, a mongoose emerged from the bushes and went straight for the cobra. In a clearing beneath the banyan tree in bright sunshine, they came face to face. The cobra knew only too well that grey mongoose, 3 feet long, was superb fighter, clever and aggressive. But the cobra too was a skillful, experienced fighter. He could move swiftly and strike with like the speed of light, and the sacs behind the long sharp fangs were full of deadly poison. It was to be a battle of champions. Hissing defiance, his forked tongue darting in and out. The cobra raised 3 or 6 feet off the ground, to spread his broad, spectacled hood. The mongoose bushed his tail, the long hair on his spine stood up. Though the combatants were unaware of my presence in the tree, they were soon made aware of the arrival of 2 other spectators. One was the myna, the other a jungle crow. They had seen these preparations for battle and had outcome. Had they been content only to watch, or would they been well with both of them? The cobra stood on the defensive, swaying slowly from the side to side, trying to mesmerize the mongoose into making a false move, but the mongoose knew the power of his opponent's glassy, unwinking eyes, and refused to meet them. Instead, he fixed his gaze at a point just below the cobra's hood and opened the attack. Moving forward quickly until he was just within the cobra's reach, the mongoose made a pretended move to one side. Immediately the cobra struck with his great hood, came down so swiftly that I thought nothing could save the mongoose, but the little fellow jumped neatly to one side and darted in as swiftly as the cobra, biting the snake on the back and darting away again out of reach. At the same moment that the cobra struck, the crow and the myna hurled themselves at him, only to collide heavily in mid-air. Shaking themselves at each other, they returned to the cactus plant. A few drops of blood glistened on the cobra's back. The cobra struck and missed. Again the mongoose sprang aside, jumped in and bit. Again the birds dived and the snake bumped into each other instead and returning shrieking to the safety of the cactus. The third round followed the same course as the first, but with one dramatic difference. The crow and the myna, still determined to take part in the proceedings, dived at the cobra, but this time they missed each other. As well as their mark, the myna flew on and reached its perch, but the crow tried to pull up in mid-air and turn back. In the In the second that it took the bird to do this, the cobra whipped his head back and struck with great force, his snout thudding against the crow's body. I saw the bird flung nearly 20 feet across the garden. It fluttered about for a while, then lay still. The myna remained on the cactus plant. And when the snake and the mongoose returned to the flight, very wisely decided not to interfere again. The cobra was weakening, and the mongoose, walking fearlessly up to it, raised himself on his short legs and with a lightning snap and the big snake by the snout. The cobra writhed and lashed about in a frightening manner, and even collided itself over the mongoose, But to no avail. The little fellow hung grimly on, until the snake had ceased to struggle. He then smelt along its quivering length, gripped it round the hood, and dragged it into the bushes. The miner dropped cautiously to the ground, hopped about, peered into the bushes from a safe distance, and then, with a shrill cry of congratulations, flew away. So it's slightly abridged, and the writer is Ruskin Bond, who is a very famous Indian writer. So, hard and new words. Spy, which secretly, resent, dislike, feel angry about. Morsels, small pieces of food. Delving, going deep into. During the fig season, the time when figs appeared. Propping myself up, learning against. Grandstand view, a clear view from the best position. A grandstand is a large covered space with rows of seats for people to watch sports. Gliding, moving smoothly. Clump, group of bushes or trees. Emerged, came out. Clearing, an open space in a forest where there are no trees. Sacs, a part of an animal or plant shaped like a bag. Fangs, long sharp teeth of a snake or a dog. Defense, defense, rebellion, resistance. Dart, move quickly, suddenly. Combatants, participants in a fight. Spectators, those who watch a show, a game, etc. Outcome, result. Mesmerize, here magically pursued a false move, an unwise action. Glistened, shown, round, here a stage in a fight or competition. Pull up, here stopped, whipped back, moved back, suddenly. Snout, the nose and mouth of an animal. To no avail, with no success. So it's written by Ruskin Bond. It was quite emotional at some moments, but even quite fun at some moments. Okay, so if you liked my video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till that, bye bye.